Let's look at diagram 4. We're going to stack a third, a second, and then a second. Your first voicing. Let's play it over the A Lydian jam track. Now, since the Lydian mode accepts all 7 notes, you don't have any sensitive tones, let's see what happens when we move up. Okay, that's totally impossible to play with just one hand, so that means that I actually have to do something. Well, again, I'm on the fringes of even being able to play it clearly. Well, what can I do? Because of the key we're in, we have a couple of open strings that are in the key. The E and the B, that's the root and the fifth. So let's say I want to play the second voicing, the B, the D sharp, the E, and the F sharp. And I really want that sound. I'm going to do whatever it takes. But it just isn't happening for me. I'm just banging my head up against the wall. I practiced for a week, and I still can't get to this chord and get it clean. Even when I get it clean, I'm out of tune. What should I have done when I first encountered some difficulty? Do I have any E's or B's in this formation? Well, yeah. Let's see. I've got an E right there. Watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the F sharp on the first string, move it over to the second string. I've got the same voicing. When you play it, if you do an ascending arpeggio, you can't just go P-I-M-A. You'd have to go P-I-A-M, thumb, index, ring, middle, to get the notes in the same order that you had them here. Now, what am I doing right there? Every single one of these studies, every single video lesson has some options. I'm going to explain this, and I've already done it, and I don't know if you ever noticed. Go back in volume 1. There are 2 things. I always like to put these little, I don't know what you'd call them, little puzzles or treasures or whatever you want to call it, or something along the way. There's a spot where, I'm going to see if you were paying attention. I want you to go back in volume 1, and I want you to find the spot where I called a major second interval a major third. I think that's what I did. I did something where I called it the wrong thing to see if you're listening. Because if you just take for granted, oh yeah, it was major third, I want you to make sure you know it was toward the latter part, one of the latter of courses or videos. But then there were these other spots where I'd play a voicing and it maybe should have been maybe this, for example. And you'd see me do this, then you'd see me kind of move back and forth. Here's why. In the chord scale, we might have a voicing like this, for example. And then we move up to them. Got the next one. See, that hardly even works. So there's a case where I've got to play it, right? I've got to use the open string, or I've got to have the keyboard player play it. You could have said, wait a minute, this whole thing, just have the keyboard player play it. Well, but every time I play a voicing out of these close voicings where I have seconds and thirds and things like that, I have other notes in that scale, the key of E, residing on each string. It's as simple as this. If I take an E chord, here we have an E chord, right? So when I play these 3 voices, what do I have on each of those strings? And then it's redundant when I go down there, but it's good to know that. What do I have on the third string? And then it's redundant down there because I got 2 B's. And something interesting happened. Because I got the G sharp here and G sharp, so I go to the A. And so on. And then you can start running it down to other strings. Well, that's an example of how just one of these chord voicings is another seed that grows into a bunch of big long vines of different chords. For example, when I play this structure, if I want to play around with the voices, no reason to go down to this C sharp because I've already got the C sharp here. No reason to go to this E because I've got the E right there unless I want a unison sound, but I've got... What have I got there? Got an open G. Well, let me experiment with something. Now I'm no longer in the key of E, am I? So you go through and you play around with whatever's available, even if it's an open string. Whatever, because the open string is probably one of the easiest things to grab. Take any voicing So if I'm taking this first voicing out of diagram 4, I say, well, if I want to stay in the key, I've got C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp. And along the way, you start to see some familiar territory. Oh yeah, there's just an A chord. It's another way for you to perhaps link these unusual voicings to something you already know. I mentioned that in some of the previous lessons. So what if I was playing around with the 3rd string? So in this case, there's not a whole lot to be gleaned from that. What if I play around with the 4th string? So I might take this voicing then I'm going to see, well, what would happen if I moved that to the next chord voicing? Okay, now we're going to enter the realm of, it's going to be pretty tough because here's this voicing. Now I got to move up to my next voicing. Didn't work like that, but what did we do? We got rid of that E, we played it over here, we went. Do you see how that works? If I've confused you, I apologize, because I'm trying to show you the big picture. You've got the E major scale on each string, and so every time you play a chord, it can generate a whole lot of other chords, a lot of neat harmonic moves. It could be a pair of strings. You could do this. What am I doing on the 3rd and the 4th strings? I'm playing thirds, chord scale, right? But I'm keeping those 2 voices the same. So if I took any of the voicings from any of these, let's say I do this one, and I play around, I've got a 3rd there, okay, and I'm... It gets pretty radical, so you have to revoice. See, I solved that problem. That's the same thing as if I was trying to play this big structure, you know, with all this stuff going on. I'm just moving the voices around. That's a little bit of a tangent that I wanted to throw at you. Don't worry about that a whole lot. That's something you could tack on right away, or you can wait. It's not imperative that you start modifying the voices, but any chord that you know that's in level 1, where you just don't have to think about it, and you can play it, and you can see it, build off of that. That's the critical thing. I don't care if it's something as simple as an E chord. Just start trying to see simultaneous major scales on each string, then play around with the voices.